Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I come before you seeking your support for Article 11, an open space purchase by the town. Janet Bernardo, Chair of the Conservation Commission, told me about the Foster property on September 11, 2021. Trustees of reservations had reached out to see if the town had any interest. This stunning 64-acre property had been owned by the Foster family. In 1981, while Hank Foster, the first Massachusetts environmental commissioner and one of the deans of Yale's School of Forestry, was still alive, he sold 30 acres to the town for $145,000. These 64 acres are immediately to the west of the first 30 sold to the town previously. Over subsequent discussions with the trustees, we learned that this parcel was not something that they would be purchasing. So they were hoping the town would be able to support securing it for open space. The town spoke with the broker and approached other potential conservation partners, seeking one who might have funds to acquire a site that was poised to be marketed for $25 million. Although the seller originally offered the town a 90-day right of first refusal, we were unable to find a conservation partner to work with us to purchase the land. The town concluded we were unable to purchase the land at the market rate at which it was offered to us. Although we understood that the sellers wished to see the beautiful meadow preserved as open space, the parcel was offered with the intent to secure the highest possible bid for the property. The town on its own would not be able to compete against single-family home developers. It is important to keep in mind that the town's interest in the property is for open space and passive recreation. Everything else is secondary to that. We seek to preserve the existing trails which run through this property and connect to trails on town land which runs to the river on the east side of the property. We wish to preserve the view from the scenic road. We wish to preserve the town's debt capacity for the upcoming Mitchell and Pollard School projects. And we were considering whether we might seek or acquire one or both of the 3-acre lots being offered on Charles River Street for some $6 million so that we could preserve access to the town trails. While we were thinking about that, we received a phone call from Northland Residential. They had been contacted by the broker as a potential buyer. The town and Northland met to explore our mutual interests and to understand what both parties saw in this property. The town, working with the Northland, had a bid rejected by the sellers in February. The family put the property on the market. Our spring bids were also rejected, and the property was sold in May to a buyer who intended to build single-family homes on the property. We were deeply disappointed by this outcome because we believe that our proposal preserved the greatest amount of open space. 20 to 25 additional acres of land will be clear-cut on this property by a single-family home developer. 1 acre of forested land sequesters 30,000 pounds of carbon annually while emitting 22,000 pounds of oxygen. The town and Northland's proposal has a significantly better environmental impact than any of the other proposals we saw. Needham will be better for the town's ongoing stewardship of this land. The market value of such a large parcel of land is typically set by looking at its potential uses. In this case, the use case with the maximum number of single-family homes possible set the potential value for the land. As the town worked with Northland, we were mindful of that value and worked to craft a clustered home solution that minimized the environmental impact on the land while maximizing the value that a dense area of construction could create. In the spring and late summer bidding, there were always 3 to 6 other bids from single-family home developers under consideration with the town and Northland bid. To have a friendly 40B, some amount of affordable housing is required. The minimum required is 5%. Although greater numbers were considered, as the market softened, the number of affordable units declined to the minimum percentage. Still, our goal was open space. Some small amount of additional affordable housing is a nice byproduct, but it's not why we are doing any of this. The additional housing in town will be a benefit for some citizens. There's a need for more age-directed housing. Because the bulk of the dollars involved in the purchase will come from the developer, it made no sense for the town to be the lead purchaser. Instead, with a successful development proposal, the town will acquire the 34, give or take, acres for $2.5 million. The town dollars went into the project last, and ultimately funds are needed from the town to secure the sale. Several things are true here. The town, the select board, is bound in the purchase of the property to support the developer's project at the ZBA and at DHCD, the Department of Housing and Community Development. The developer is bound to sell the land to the town for $2.5 million once the land is purchased. The town is obligated in covenants to the seller to place the 2 3-acre parcels along Charles River Street under conservation restriction. This will have the effect of landlocking the parcel to make it undevelopable and inaccessible by a public way. In addition, the town is committed that no major structures or buildings will be built on the 28-acre meadow. That land will be used strictly for open space and passive recreation. We do expect that we'll need to build an item like a shed to secure a mower. People have asked, how do we know that this developer will not change his mind and bring a different proposal at a later date? I will never say never, but the select board will be required to sign off on the developer's submission to DHCD. The shape of that submission will be quite public. We've already talked about and showed images of what that potential development might look like. 14 acres with 70 units built on them. That means there will be approximately 5 units per acre. The minimum 5% affordable units at 80% of the area mean income. All units will be for purchase, not rental apartments. The units will be age-directed with first floor master bedrooms. There will be approximately a 14-acre buffer around the property, creating a buffer from Charles River Street, a buffer from Whitman Road, and a buffer from the Kettle House. This is the property that the proposal that the select board expects to sign. We do not expect the number of units here to have a material impact on the Newman School or on local traffic because of the nature of the development. But the ZBA will be the final arbiter of what is required to develop the property. This development pays for the town's ability to acquire 34 acres for $2.5 million. If there is no development, there is no open space for the town. If town meeting were to reject the authorization of $2.5 million to acquire the property, or if town meeting were to refer the sale of the property back to the town, then the town would not have a sale to discuss anymore. The seller would need to find a different buyer. That is not the outcome the select board wants. If you have visited the property or looked at the photos, the land is gorgeous. If you have not walked the property, you have another opportunity to do so on Saturday, October 22nd at 10 a.m. Please meet at Ridge Hill. Working to secure this property for the town has been a labor of love for me over the last year. Dr. Kettle, who owns the Wine Glass property in the center of the Foster land with his wife Cindy, describes his mowing of the meadow as his spiritual offering to the land. He has asked us if he may continue to maintain the meadow as long as he is able. When Dr. Kettle is ready to say enough, the town will take on that responsibility. If the land is sold to a single-family home developer, it will be clear-cut, and it will never be back as forested land. Developers had plans to build, which included building on a portion of the meadow. Instead, please help the town to keep this stunning property preserved for the future, for open space. Thank you. The Select Board unanimously asks for your support of Article 11.